super special for this video, but I do want to talk about mental health and self-care, and the importance of both of those things, and ways to take care of yourself mentally. So, a little bit of my background. I was diagnosed bipolar, and it's something that I have dealt with for my entire life, and I feel like when I did actually get diagnosed, a lot of questions about my behavior and my emotions were answered. And now I don't want to excuse any kind of behaviors or emotions that I had like that. They're all things that I felt and things that were real for me. But knowing that there's a reason has been extremely helpful for me. So this video is pretty much for you if you struggle with depression and periods of feeling really good. That's kind of what bipolar is having a really high good feeling and having a corresponding low bad feeling. I can't speak to a lot of other things except for maybe some anxiety, and maybe some social anxiety, I guess is the word for that. But I found myself as an adult, and I now work in mental health, and I've learned a lot about how to take care of myself up here, which is extremely important to stop the constant up and down that you feel when you have bipolar disorder. So I just want to talk about that because I feel like I've finally found a way to level out, and I just want to share it. And I've been making these videos, and that is one of the things that really helps me as well. It's very therapeutic for me, and so I figured, why not share it in one of the videos, because they kind of go together, at least for me. So, one thing that I want to mention is self-care can take form in many different ways, and some of the things that you would think are bad for you could also be self-care. And I say that I want to give you an example so you understand where I'm coming from with that one. So for me, sometimes I really love to indulge in playing video games. That's a big one for me. So instead of having it be a really negative thing, where I'm just playing too many video games and it's just chaotic, I actually schedule it and I plan it, and I keep it on a list of things that I want to do, so that way it feels like an accomplishment when I do that thing, and I know that it's something that I really want to do, and it makes me good instead of feeling bad about it, because, you know, indulging in spending hours playing video games is typically looked at as a bad thing. But I think if it's something like that, and you really want to do it, you know, do it in a positive way, and it's good for you. It is. It's good for you to be happy and do the things that you want to do. And if you schedule that kind of thing into your life, you can schedule the other things that you need to do to also take care of yourself in other ways, like, for example, eating properly. So what I do when I want to indulge in these things is I write out my list, and I make a healthy meal on my list, you know, and I put, like, take out the garbage on my list, and I put, you know, play Fallout on my list, and then I kind of go down the list, and I do all the things on the list, and then the last thing I do is I play the video game. And I also will set a timer so that I still go to bed at the right time. And I just think it's important to indulge yourself when you want to do these things, because it feels good. It does. It really does. And it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to do things that you want to do and that feel good. Other ways. So that's just one example of how I do my self-care, where I am indulging in something that could be really unhealthy. So the ways that it could be really unhealthy are obviously, like, you know, if you don't take care of the other things up here, it will get bad. And you have to keep that in mind. That has to be something that's kind of on the forefront, that it's okay to go in, but you need to have a plan, and you need to know that if you just don't take care of anything else, it's not going to go very well. So another thing, and I guess this is more like the social anxiety part of me. It's not quite as much the bipolar, but it still is a self-care thing that I do for myself. And it's like I love it. So here where I live, it might not be the same for everybody, but here we have basically like a service with our grocery store, and there's a couple places that do it where you can do online pickup. And I find this extremely helpful, because sometimes I'm not there. I'm not in the mood, I guess, to see a lot of people and deal with the crowds and have to make tons of small talk or feel awkward in a grocery store. So this online pickup thing is something that I do sometimes when I need, you know, nutritious food and I don't want to deal with people. So I just order it, and then on my way home from work, I stop by, and, you know, this little kid, this teenager who works at the thing, like, wheels my groceries out, and I just put them in my car and I pay. And it's been extremely helpful for me to avoid the sheer amount of people that you have to encounter at the grocery store. I know it's like kind of a really specific thing to not like, but I think that if you have social anxiety, that you understand where I'm coming from with that one, because it can be a really intimidating place. So that is a way that I deal with it. And if you have a service like that in your area and you know what I'm talking about not wanting to go into a grocery store, like, I can't recommend it enough. You deal with like one person, you show up, you make a phone call, you say, I'm here for my groceries, you pre-ordered everything online, and they bring it out. Amazing. Amazing. It's one of my favorite things that has developed in the grocery world, if you can call it that. So that's another thing that I do to take care of my up here. Another thing that I do that I also can't recommend enough, I can't, is I do journal. I know it sounds so like everybody tells you to do it, you know, but I found myself only writing down the negative things. When I felt negative, I needed to get it out, so I would only write down negative things, and then I would look back and I'd only ever see the negative things. So now I make a conscious effort to write down when something positive happens too, so that I still have that outlet where I'm writing about the negative stuff, and it helps me like relieve some of the pressure. But I can also look back and see positive things. But then I can also look back and see patterns about my negativity and where it comes from. It's honestly, it's a really amazing thing to keep a journal. So I'll tell you how I keep this journal, because I feel like that is one of the most important things. I don't write anything in a book. I have on my Google Drive a document, and every time I make an entry, I just bump the previous one down. So what that means for me is that every time I have an urge to write about something, as long as I have access to a computer or my phone or a tablet or something, I have my journal there and I can keep track of it all together. So I feel like it's important to have that easily accessible like that for you, because, you know, sometimes you can't control when this starts turning, and you need to have that outlet. So that's like another thing that I do that really helps me. Another thing, I'll show you. You know, I was talking about making lists. So this is my book. It might look familiar. It's my notebook. And every day I write a list. So I'll show you. Here's a good example of what my lists look like. Sometimes I put things on them that is just so basic you wouldn't even think it needed to be written on a list. Stuff like brush my teeth and wash my face. And sometimes days are like that, you know. Sometimes you have bad days, and that's okay. But, you know, like, look at all the things that are crossed off. It feels really good to see, like, even on a day where I didn't do stuff, or I didn't do everything, I still did stuff. And, you know, sometimes when you're feeling down, it is a lot harder to take care of yourself like that. And, you know, have showers and brush your teeth and wash your face. And those become bigger chores when you're depressed. So I always like to write them down, even when I'm not feeling depressed, because I always feel like, you know, it's a good, it's just a good way to monitor what I'm doing and how well I'm doing. After working in mental health, I actually work in mental health and addictions, but I'm only gonna speak to the mental health side of it. After working in mental health for, I think, the last 5 years it's been, I have learned some things, I feel, about medication and what it's used for. And I also just want to share some of that because it's important to understand medication. So I've tried a lot of different kinds of medication, and in the end, none of it was for me. And I'm a much happier person practicing my self-care rituals and just trying to keep an eye on my mood. They call it mindfulness. So it's when you are extremely aware of your mental state and what's going on, and that's what you practice, and it's called practicing mindfulness. But sometimes mental health can stem from a traumatic event that happened to you. And the funny thing about our brain is that when something traumatic happens, we can cut it out of our memories even. And it's buried so deeply in our subconscious that we can't find it without the help of medication. So medication is a really good thing to help you dive into what might be an issue. Like, it's like stepping outside of imagine yourself. How am I going to put this? Imagine yourself as a house, and this medication is the door. And taking the medication allows you to step outside of your house and look at it from the outside. So you can see from the outside what is happening to you, or what has happened to you. And then you can start to deal with those issues. And if you already do know what your issue is, I can give you a hint too if you need help. If you have something that you think of, and every time you think of it, you get that knot in your chest, in your throat, and you are fighting back tears, that's probably the thing that you need to talk about the most. And you know what? It might not even be the actual thing. It might just be the thing that leads to the problem. But if you have an issue, you have to start saying it out loud to somebody. My biggest relief was talking about my issues with my family, like talking to them about what was going on with me, and confronting some situations that were so buried, you know, and it has done the most for my mental health, like being able to kind of move on and become a happier person for having talked about these things. I know that it's extremely hard though, and that's another thing that the medication helps with. Sometimes people need to take medication for their entire lives, and that's fine too. That's fine too, because different medications have different purposes, and some people only need it for a little bit, and some people need it for longer or forever. And if you do need medication forever, you know that, and it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing to know that. You know, you're blessed to know, because some people go unmedicated who need it, and you know, if you are on it, it's good. I don't want to give the impression that medication is only used to do this one thing, like it is for other stuff too. But I feel like sometimes people go on medication and they don't understand that it doesn't have to be forever, or it can be forever if that's how you feel it helps. Like, another thing that I really want to stress is your doctors and psychiatrists, they're there to help you on your road, but nobody is going to know what goes on in here as well as you do. So if you have any thoughts like, maybe I am this, and it's something that you've looked up or whatever, don't be afraid to say that to your doctor. Don't be afraid to say, maybe this, you know, and explain yourself, because, you know, they can never get in there. You're the one who's got front row seats to what's going on in your brain, and you know, the more, and you know, even if you say maybe it's this, and you explain why, they can tell you, oh, that actually sounds like something else. Just have the dialogue, you know. It's important. It's very important to do it. You know, like a lot of people say, don't self-diagnose. Like, don't self-diagnose, but do research on what you think might be going on, because how else are you going to know or find out? Another thing I want to talk about is meditation. So, the reason why I say it like that is because when I was talking about being diagnosed and all of this, and I had been put on medication, I did hear quite often, you know, have you tried meditation? And I want to say, you don't have to try meditation. I think that people meditate in different ways, and if you have something that you enjoy doing, that's your meditation. You don't need to sit down on a yoga mat to clear your mind. Personally, for me, I'm an artist. I like to paint. Every time I paint, that's me meditating. I don't think I could ever get a clearer mind than when I'm focused on something like that. I just want you to know that I don't think that meditation is necessarily the same as medication. Especially if people who don't really know are saying, like, have you tried this? You don't need to justify your medication to anybody. You don't. It's none of their business, really. And, yeah. I mean, if you love to meditate, that's fine, but the two aren't mutually exclusive. You can do one without the other, or you can do them together, whatever. But meditation does not fill a hole that medication would be. Yeah, so, I mean, obviously that is something that I heard more than once, and enough for me to want to bring it up in this video, because I feel like people kind of jump to, well, you know, meditation, but nah. I also want to mention, even though I do work in mental health, nothing that I'm saying here take everything that I say here with a grain of salt, I guess, and decide for yourself what's the best for you. Because, like I said, self-care is different for everyone, and I just wanted to share my experiences and the things that I do for self-care. But it is up to you what self-care looks like for you. And, you know, I think it's really good to ask yourself, well, what does self-care look like for me? And then start applying that. I mean, that is the best way to take care of yourself. I don't really think I have much else to say, to be honest. So this is probably going to be a pretty short video. But I did want to be able to put up a video. I've been on vacation, but the video this Sunday. So I feel like Sunday's kind of been the day that I've been putting my videos out, or at least trying to. And I'm gonna keep trying to do Sunday videos. We'll see if it works out. Oh, also totally unrelated. I've been playing a lot of Dark Souls lately. Dark Souls 3, and I actually just bought Dark Souls 2. But I was very inspired to make this. So, show you. I was very inspired to make this. Which, if you play Dark Souls, you'll know that this is the Fire Maiden's mask. And I had ideas of maybe doing a role play with it, but I will say I am a little scared to do a role play of a character that already has a voice and exists, and is so iconic, you know, like I really want to do a good job, so this might be a thing in the future, but we'll see. I don't know. Okay, so I'm gonna say good night now, or good day, I guess, if it's day for you. And I guess I just hope that this video was helpful, or maybe made you think about what it means for you to take care of yourself, because it is extremely important to feel good and take care of yourself for